Today's video, we're taking a look at the top 25 vintage non-sports card sales on eBay for March 2025. So the first card we're going to feature is a 1989 Rotten to the Core of Donald Trump. The most expensive card in this set, although it does feature some other people within politics. This card over here sold for $1,250, which seems a bit on the lower side for what tens of these have done over the last few months. There has obviously been some hype because of the election as well as becoming the 47th president, but I do see that wearing off a little bit on these prices. It wouldn't shock me if these go under 1,000 over the next few months. Up next, we have the N22 Kenny Bros. There's actually quite a few of these that sold within the last few weeks. Some of them are going to be featured in this video. Some of them will be featured also in our April video, which will come out in May. But we have Lafayette in a PSA 8, which is an incredible grade for this set. This copy over here sold for $1,426. And don't worry, there's going to be a few others within this video too. Next, we have a 1966 Batman in a PSA 7. There was a few 7s that sold this month. This was the highest, which sold for $1,400. I talked a lot about this card in my 1960s video, so if you want to learn a little bit more about 1960s non-sports, check it out because there's like 5 different variants of this card. All right, we have Outer Limits. Actually, 2 Outer Limits cards made the list this month. This was a TV show produced from 1963 to 65. I believe there's other years that they reproduced the show as well. Some of these in high grade go quite expensive. In fact, this one over here in an 8 sold for $1,499. A lot of this price point, I believe, is popped up by set collectors that want to find these in high grade. But remember, these are black bordered cards, also non-sports. So a lot of these weren't taken care of. So finding them in high grades can be very tough. All right, we have number 21 on here, which is a 1977 Star Wars card, number 286 in the Gem Mint 10 grade. This copy over here sold for $1,499. All right, number 20, we have U.S. Grant from the N370 Lone Jack cigarettes, which is probably the second most popular Lone Jack non-sports set. Obviously, the Inventors is number 1. Those have gone nuclear with their values, but this is probably number 2, which I was actually quite surprised with this selling for $1,500. Historically, over like the last few years, this Grant has sold anywhere from like $300 to maybe $600-$700, somewhere in that price point. But what's kind of interesting about the N370 set is it's a mixture of both baseball players as well as non-sports historical figures, and there's a lot of big names in there. Mark Twain is also in there as well. And if you want to learn even more about this set, we have this video here on the channel, so you can check it out. Now, I know a lot of people don't watch these set videos. I put a lot of time into them. In fact, this only has like 300 views, a lot of research and stuff like that, but you guys can check it out on here, and here is Queen Victoria. I start putting in a few other snippets into these type of videos if you guys want to check them out or not. We have a 1933 Sea Raiders, a difference in Montreal English only. So Sea Raiders, there's quite a few different variants out there just depending on the language on the back of the card. This one is bilingual. Oh, sorry, this one is English only, but it also has a bilingual version. The version that's English only, there's 2 8s out there. There's one 8.5. This sold for $1,510. Here's another N22 of Julius Caesar in an 8, and it sold for $1,623, which might actually be the highest Julius Caesar sale on record. I can't think of any others. I don't think any N15s have outsold this, although if there was an N15 and an 8, I would easily clear this, but I think that's the highest Caesar on record. Doctor Doom from 1991 Marvel Universe hologram in a PSA 10. Typically, these hologram cards are very, very tough to gem. In fact, sometimes you'll find under like a pop 20 or pop 30 for more famous Marvel characters out there. This Doctor Doom over here is sold for $1,750. All right, we have a really interesting card over here. I believe this is a 1985 Panini signed by Bruce Springsteen. Typically, you don't see a lot of autographed Panini music cards, and here is one of those over here. And this copy over here sold for $2,000. Now, personally, I do wish Whoever purchased this card gets a new label on here. It says 1985 Panini. It would be really interesting to see how many of these end up getting graded over long term, but you can see these are quite pricey. And for you music buffs out there, how much is a Springsteen autograph on a vinyl? Like, how much of a premium is it on this Panini card compared to a vinyl? I'm actually quite interested on that. All right, we have a Harrison Ford autograph over here to the bottom left. Actually, the card doesn't look too bad, so maybe they'll go for the dual auto. Although, one thing to note is the autograph does go off the card, so no matter what, it's not going to get a 10 of an auto. I believe these get 9s, if I'm correctly. This sold over here for $2,000. We have a 1928 Jazzmazzi of Albert Einstein. There's probably, I think, 5 or 6 different versions of this card if you flip over the back. Jazzmazzi is pretty easy to find. By the way, I'm probably mispronouncing Jazzmazzi. I don't know the actual way to say it, but that's my assumption on it. And if it's wrong, please let me know. I'll just pronounce it correctly here in the future. This copy over here sold for $2,035. This is one of the cards that was up quite a bit for a while, but a ton of them have flooded the market. Now, on the rarer backs, I don't believe those have been impacted as much, but the Jazzmazzi is one of those that you could find relatively easily. 1931 Wills, Walt Disney and Mickey Mouse. A really great grade over here in an 8. There's a huge multiple between the 8 and a 9, with 9 selling about $20,000 to $40,000. An 8 in this copy over here sold for $2,500. And like I've said in other videos, and if you're new here, no worries. This is kind of, in my opinion, like one of the 1933 Gaudi Ruths. You can find them all the time, but so many people want this card. It's a really iconic card that you can find. Although the Gaudi Ruth is getting quite expensive in low grades. This one, even 8, it's at $2,500. If you want to find a 1, you could find that under $300. Also, to mention, I do have a full video on the 1931 Wills Cinema set. Again, not many people watched this video when I put it out, so if you want to learn even more about it, check it out. And there's Buster Keaton on that side of things. All right, Three Stooges. We have Curly over here, card number 1, most expensive in the set. One thing I learned doing research on our 1850s video is there's actually a few different variations of this set, just depending on the color of the back of the card. This one isn't a rare one, and it sold for $2,750. Let's jump into our next card. Number 11 is going to be Silver Surfers. This is a diamond preview, and if you've ever seen diamond previews and they're in really great shape, pick them up because there is quite a big of a premium associated with them. We're going to see a few other of these in our top 10, but just to show you what a diamond preview looks like on these cards, if you go over here, and obviously this isn't the same one, but this is a She-Hulk, and you can see that there's a diamond right here in the center. I don't know why I tried pointing my screen, but there's a diamond right over there in the center, and that's how you know the diamond premiums. I believe there's also some sheets and stuff like that, or 4 cards in general that are perforated, things like that. So be on the lookout for these if they are really nice. Pick them up. This is a card, in my opinion, that could potentially land in a bargain bin because a dealer does not know. So always check your Marvel cards. We're going to jump into our honorable mentions. A few things. Number 1, this video is sponsored by Check Out My Cards. So on the channel, I do a series where I build out a COMC store from scratch, and I've been documented over time. And they have agreed to partner with the channel. So they have sponsored this video in itself. And you can find a ton of non-sports cards on there. What I did is just showed you some recent cards that people have added within the 1960s. Here on here, you can see some Green Hornet, which have some really amazing imagery on here. We have a 1964 John Lennon, and then Mr. Softy Top 20. But there's so many more non-sports cards. In fact, I buy a lot for my PC from COMC by reselling some of the other cards. I find something that I want, I buy it with my funds from selling some other sports cards and different things like that, and throw it into my collection. So make sure to check out COMC, check out my cards. The link to my profile on COMC is going to be down below, and I have hundreds, if not thousands, of non-sports cards for sale, and you're from the 1800s up until today. All right, let's jump into our honorable mentions. And then if you want to interact with our community, we have both a Facebook and a group on Mantle, so make sure to check those out. Let's jump into our next slide. So one of the honorable mentions is a Garbage Pail box. This is a first series from Baseball Card Exchange, 48 wax packs. This sold for $13,420. Up next, we have a 1929 Oswald the Lucky Rabbit 15 card set. This one sold for $2,000. I actually don't know if it's a full set or just 15 cards from it. We have Lost in Space. This was a 16 card lot that featured PSA 10s, 9s, 8 5s, and 8s. This sold over here for $7,000. We have a 1995 Marvel Masterpieces original card art painting. I'm not too familiar with this character, but it's sold for $4,000. Why I bring that up is some of the auction recaps we've done in the past. There's been some 52 look and sees that have sold at auction for some quite expensive dollar amounts. And, there's Marvel collectors out there too that probably want to have original artwork. And this is one of those. So I found it kind of cool. All right. Card-wise, we have a 1899 Stoic of Da Vinci. These have gone crazy for the last few years. I remember you could pick these up under $100, but maybe I should grab more because this 3 over here is sold for about $1,100. Although the eye appeal on this 3 is pretty nice on it. We have a 1977 Luke Skywalker card number 1 and 8. This also sold for about $1,100. George Washington N22. This one sold for $1,235 in a 5. And man, going back a few years ago, I remember I had a chance to buy a 6 and a 7 for well under $1,000, and I passed on them. And it's been a big regret because I always thought you could find these relatively cheap, and I did not predict where this non-sports market is today. We have a 1932 blue of Abraham Lincoln. This sold raw for $1,000. Actually, it's probably not a bad price. I don't know what this is going to grade. I can't tell if that's like on the card or on the picture and what's going on down over here. But it looks like it could grade a 4 or 5. And if it does, someone got a steal at $1,000 price point. Personally, I think if you had this in raw shape, you should have graded it. We have a 1985 Atom Bomb in a 9. And this has the checklist on it, glossy version. Again, there's a lot of different variants of 1985 Garbage Pail Kids. And this sold for $1,000. We have a Harrison Ford autograph card number 287 or 267. It's a little blurry over here, but it sold for $950. Up next, we have Captain America versus Red Skull card number 5, the Battle Spectra. And all the Battle Spectra stuff, if you find them in 10s, they're like really, really nice shape. Give it a shot grading. I say find it in 10s, give it a shot grading. But if it looks really nice, give it a shot because the 10 premium on these are really, really high. This sold for $850. Another Luke Skywalker autograph over here. Mark Hamill as Luke Skywalker. This one sold for $850. We have N162 Goodwin Champs of Steinitz. I think that's the pronunciation on it. This one in a 1 sold for $773. I know Orlando has a few videos on this, so Orlando being a collector's gem, so make sure to check out his channel if you want to learn a little bit more on it. We have the classic C-3PO error card in a PSA 8. This one sold for $750. I'm sure it'll be featured in my 1970s video for non-sports, which I am working on right now. So make sure to stay tuned for that when it comes out next month. We have a 1935 Walt Disney of He's Sure a Handy, very classic set out there. And this one sold for $700. Quite a few cards in the set go for a lot of money, especially when you get to the higher numbers and more controversial ones. Let's jump into our top 10 now, and we're going to start off with another diamond preview. This one is X-Men versus Magneto, and it sold for $3,000. Another one over here, Marvel Universe Amazing Fantasy card number 15 with Spider-Man on here, and this one also sold for $3,000. We have Superman from 1940s Leader Novelty. Card number 7. This one also sold for $3,000. There was some crazy sales at Hake's auction based around the set, and I did talk to a few people about bringing that on into a video, and that will be on a little bit later this month, so make sure to stay tuned when we have a personal collection episode. Another Superman over here. Gum Ink card number 1, probably the most iconic Superman card out there, and a 2.5, which I'm going to say this isn't the nicest 2.5. If it was a little bit nicer, I would expect the price to be going up a bit. This one over here sold for $3,000. You can see it has some centering issues. Also looks like there's some sort of paper loss or issues here on the front right as well. Most of the card looks good. There's some staining too on that side of things. So typically, if it's a 2.5 and looks a little bit nicer, this would go for more. All right, up next, another $3,000 card. This time we have Blackbeard from the famous 1933 Sea Raiders. You know, this is another card that I kind of procrastinated on buying, and just looking back, I should have bought it a few years ago, because I would have never predicted a $3,000 price point for it. But it's a classic card. A lot of people love it. Actually, I think a lot more people like this design than the 1888 Allen and Ginter. And let me know down below in the comment section which of the two you personally prefer. Another Outer Limits, the Unstoppable one in a PSA 9. This sold for $3,599. In the number 4 spot, we have an 1888 N76 Great Americans of Abraham Lincoln. This copy over here sold for $4,683. This is one that I did buy a few years ago. I actually paid up close to $1,000 or slightly over for it. So this is a pretty good comp in my opinion on it. Number 3, another hologram card. This time we have Spider-Man from 1990 Marvel Universe. It's a Pop 28 in a PSA 10, and this copy over here sold for $4,750. In the number 2 spot, we have a Beatles card from 1963 that features 3 autographs of Lennon and Starr and Harrison. Now this was kind of like a promo card, and some people don't count it as a card. I personally count it as one, and it sold for $5,000. It doesn't feature the McCartney auto. He is still alive. I would assume it's a very, very tough autograph to do. I don't think he's doing private signings in any capacity, but I could be wrong on that side of things. So let's jump into our number 1 card sale. And this is the 1990 Topps USA George Bush in a PSA 6. This card right over here sold for $11,000. This wasn't issued in 1990 Topps, and also talked about it in the 1990 Topps baseball card video that we recently published on the channel. But this was kind of like a giveaway through the White House, and I know a lot of copies, not a lot, but a few copies have hit the secondary market, and they are quite expensive. And there's also some signed copies out there. Thanks guys for checking out this video. I'm going to put our non-sports playlist on the channel right now, so that way if you want to learn even more about some of the sets in different decades that we talked about in this video, you can check it out. All of our educational content right on there. A lot of research is put into it. So thanks guys once again, and I will catch you in another video.